back to a special episode of There Will Be Expletives. I'm Geoff.
I'm Ron.
And this episode is basically our thoughts on the season that was of Season 1 of Luke Cage.
Sweet Christmas, Luke Cage.
Sweet Christmas. What we're going to be doing is the first few minutes of this are going to be spoiler-free, and then we'll give you a warning of when to check out. If you have not yet watched it, for the love of God, go watch it. It's so good.
Yes, please.
So, we don't have any notes or anything. We're just going to freeball in it. First thing I will say, it has the best pacing of all of the shows.
I absolutely agree.
We often complain that they should all be 10 episodes. This is the only one so far that going into season 2, for me personally, if they wanted to, they earn the right to do 13.
Yes.
Because unlike the rest of the shows, Jessica Jones in particular, I never felt the length wearing me down. Where, like, usually, once you get to, like, 7-8 episodes in, because I've been binging them so hardcore, I kind of need a break, because I've been binging them so hardcore. I never really felt fatigue watching Luke Cage.
Yeah, I was going to say, Luke Cage doesn't really fatigue you. Next thing you know, Netflix is asking if you're still watching. Because you just let them run. They don't feel like they're 45 minutes or whatever it is they are.
And some of them are even longer. Like, there's a couple that run over an hour.
Do they really?
Yeah.
They all felt to me like they were 20, 30 minutes because of the pacing. And not just the pacing throughout the season. The pacing in each episode was very well balanced.
Which is a masterclass considering how you... I mean... what you have to pull from the source material with Luke Cage, there's some cool stuff there, but like when you're comparing it to like the Purple Man and like Elektra and the Punisher, and they still found a way to make it more fluid, like they deserve a lot of props for that.
Yeah, no, that was pretty awesome what they accomplished.
The references. Which the references that I did pick up on, I'm sure there were a bunch that I didn't pick up on just because I'm sure there was a bunch for hardcore fans. But what references there are there to pick up on were fantastic. Some of the best callbacks I think I've seen.
I agree. Also, yeah, it's amazing how they did some of their callbacks so well. But yet kind of made fun of themselves a little bit, but without taking you out of the episode or out of the show. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes when stuff calls itself out on what it is they're doing or what they've done in the past, it just kind of pulls you out of the show. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it still pulls you out of the show. Luke Cage did not do that. It worked it was pretty ingenious, some of the callbacks they did. And their cinematographer deserves a raise because they didn't get paid enough for that.
Yeah, the cinematographer should be doing the Defenders and movies for them as well, because there are some beautiful shots. Like, I'm sure the one that's gotten around online is all I will say is the shot with the crown.
Yes.
If you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. That was beautifully shot.
I was so happy that didn't get spoiled for you.
There's a lot of not even specific, like, memorable shots, but they just had a lot of cool, kind of unique framing they did. Like, they did a lot of close-ups. They did a lot of atypical framing of conversations, which ended up making it pretty...
It's a show that you not only need to pay attention to what's happening, there are certain dialogue moments throughout that you just need to pay as much attention to the background as you do the foreground, because what they set up, the things that you see, they are all part of the dialogue. Even if it's just an object in the background, it is part of what's happening. It's just incredible. There's an entire episode devoted to the cinematographer late in the season. Like, it's just awesome.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. It's so subtly placed in. I didn't even know it was there until like you referenced something that I didn't catch. Like, that's pretty cool. It even gives it like some rewatchability. Like, or maybe there was some stuff you missed the first time around. All the performances were great. Mike Coulter is perfect. He's absolutely perfect for a character I don't even have to know anything about, just to know that he's perfect for it, because He's so likable. He's so charismatic. And I could watch Mike Coulter bonk guys on the head into unconsciousness all day long.
I just enjoy any fight scene he has because he is so bored during any of his fights. I don't even really know how to describe it without giving anything away, because that show, the way it is done, it's fairly unique. I mean, just the character, Luke Cage himself, the way that it's filmed, some of their dialogue and references that they make, not just comic books, but anything. It's just its own beast.
Really, obviously we both love the show. The only problems I think I had with it, and we'll get into more detail in the spoiler section, but I think there were villains, and I'll get into specifics in a few minutes. I think they spent, and I can understand probably why they did this, because it's which comic characters are more important than other ones. But as far as which ones were adapted into the show, I think there were a couple of the villains that were the coolest actually got the less. They got less screen time than less interesting ones. If you get what I'm saying at all.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think it's a thing that moving forward for season 2, I think it'll probably improve upon that, just because this was, I would imagine, pretty daunting to take Luke Cage, which is, if Daredevil is like B- C list, what is Luke Cage and Iron Fist? What are they, like F list? Like
they're down there. They're
down there, and then for them to make a show that was as briskly paced and compelling, I think they did a great job. Yeah, any complaints I have are really minor. Was there anything you had, any issues you had with it?
Nothing that I can really go into in the spoiler-free version, except I will say this: it's definitely the police side of things is definitely not police procedural. Like, it is. It's almost painful to watch the police stuff.
The cops, I will say, another complaint I had, are fucking stupid for the most part. Like, unrealistically stupid.
Everything that the cops do kind of upset me.
Did you like Misty?
I liked Misty.
I like Misty. I thought the actress did a really, really good job, because some of the character arc stuff they do with her could have made that character like the Laurel of this show.
Oh, yeah.
And she did a good job making her kind of feisty and likable.
Yeah, I like Misty, and I like her partner. What's his name? I can't think of his name.
I probably could have told you if you didn't ask me. It was something super Italian. That is all I can say.
Yeah, but anyways, his partner, he's been in a ton of movies and TV series and stuff. I really like him too.
Dude Bro from Pulp Fiction, that's his name.
There you go.
But the last thing I'll say in the spoiler free is I thought we go ahead, and we've seen 4 seasons of these Netflix shows. There's been 2 seasons of Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. Rank them for me from best to worst, each of the seasons. And Daredevil, we're gonna do all 4. Daredevil's not just combined; it's just each season.
Okay. Ranking just what is our favorites.
Yeah,
like taking everything into account, fighting
everything
story,
into account,
everything.
each season, kind of in a nutshell. I can tell you mine if you want to think about it.
I think Luke Cage is probably my number 1. I don't know.
Okay, I'll tell you mine while you think about it. My number 1 is still Daredevil season 1.
Okay.
Just because I think Luke Cage has better pacing, but it's to me Daredevil season 1 is more well-rounded, specifically because of D'Onofrio. When they cut away in Luke Cage to the cops, like you point out, you're like, for the love of God, go back to Luke Cage. In Daredevil season 1, when they would cut back to like that full episode on the Kingpin, like when they cut away, or like avocados at law.
Yeah.
Like, when they cut away from the action in Daredevil season 1, it doesn't grind to a halt as bad as certain aspects of Luke Cage.
I think for me, it's probably Luke Cage, Daredevil 1, Daredevil 2, and Jessica Jones. And
yeah,
the thing is, like, yeah, the cop stuff in there is a turnoff for me on the show. But Daredevil season 1, or either of the seasons, I really only care about Daredevil when he's suited up. I don't really care about much else that happens. I like the avocados at law scene, and they have a few moments like that. Daredevil season 2 had a moment at a party when he bumps into the guy and makes him spill wine on himself. But I mean, most of the time, unless he's suited up, I really don't care what's happening.
We pretty much agree on the rest of it. My ranking would be Daredevil season 1, and then Luke Cage, and then Daredevil season 2, and then Jessica Jones. So it's kind of just like splitting hairs. Like, they each have their pros and cons. They're
think
both
what
really
hurts
good,
Jessica
though.
Jones for us is that it wasn't necessarily what was promised, but it was still good. Like, it was good. It's not bad.
Yeah, it was
compared to everything else. It's not as good.
Yeah, it was more disappointing than it was like bad.
Yeah,
is how I would say.
Who knew the Twilight chick would disappoint?
Well, she didn't even fucking write but like 1 or 2 episodes of it. She didn't even bother.
Yeah.
You also got to give props for Daredevil season 1 as well. They had a showrunner change mid-season. That was impressive.
I'll give
and
them
then
that.
A showrunner change from season 1 to season 2 after they already changed. So to keep those seasons somewhat on par together were pretty impressive. I'm obviously a little bit more biased towards Daredevil 2 in that I find all of the Matt Murdock and Foggy stuff compelling because I've read so many comics that is such a large focus on it, especially the more recent Daredevil comics, where I get more out of that than like a casual viewer.
Yeah, Daredevil season 2 fell off for me a little bit on that. I was facepalming more with Foggy in Daredevil season 2. I don't think he made me facepalm at all in season 1, but it turned into CW angst with Foggy. And
I could see that.
I was just like, come on, guys.
Although the angst in any of it was not nearly as bad as Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones has some pretty bad angst going on in it. But yeah, let's talk about some spoilers. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, go check it out now and then come back. We're going to be talking full spoilers for Luke Cage season 1. I'll say the thing I alluded to earlier. The villains of Black Mariah and Diamondback, to me, are not as compelling as the 2 lesser villains in the show of Shades and Cottonmouth. I actually like both of them better than the main 2 villains.
Yeah, I liked both of them much better. Shades is a shady motherfucker, and Cottonmouth was everything that I wanted out of the villains in that show.
Until they fucking kill him.
I had a feeling he was gonna die, but not as early as he did, and not the way he did.
It was bravo to them for it was a cool twist in them killing him, because I thought for sure if he died, it would be the last thing in the season finale. Because for the first literally half of the season, he is the main antagonist.
Yes. I figured he'd go out like about halfway through the season, and Diamondback is just not happy with what's happening, because that's why he sent Shades to begin with, right? And Cottonmouth is still fucking up around every corner. So I figured about halfway through the season, they kept alluding to Diamondback so much, I knew you were going to see him this season. So I figured about halfway through the season,
I almost thought it'd be a thing where he was going to be in season 2, and he was going to be teased throughout season 1.
See, I felt like they were referencing him too much. I felt like he was going to come in at some point in the first season. I figured about halfway through the season he would show up and just blow Cottonmouth away, just shoot him in the head or something and take over. I had no idea it was going to be Mariah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I appreciate the cojones in killing Cottonmouth, but in retrospect, I wish they hadn't killed Cottonmouth because he was a much cooler character than
He was a much
Diamondback and
cooler
Black.
character. And what was funny, they got me twice because I was like, when he falls out the window, I was like, oh fuck, they killed Cottonmouth. And then he's dragging himself. I'm like, oh no, he'll be fine. And then she grabs the mic stand, and now I have a fear of mic stands.
Which is a really, really brutal and poetic thing to kill him with too, because
Right.
all he cared about was that club.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Shades was really a really cool, fun villain. I'm really, really glad they at least continued Shades into season 2. That's the other thing I'll say. I actually really appreciate how there is legitimate setup for season 2.
yes,
All of the rest of the shows
ended.
and there were some loose threads that could be continued, but it didn't have legitimate setup where you already knew what the plot lines would be.
Even Daredevil season 2, I guess you couldn't say ended, but it concluded. Like
Yeah.
you know, like if they never made a season 3, you would be satisfied with the ending to 2.
Yeah, and with Luke Cage, the next season, or part of the Defenders, it kind of depends on what ends up going where, but we know going in what the majority of the at least first half of the season's plot lines are going to be. With Daredevil, we didn't even know
Yeah.
that there was going to be an Elektra and a Punisher, like they could go anywhere with it. And I actually kind of liked how it looks like it's a continuous story arc, which I think really, really bodes well for Luke Cage. It was almost the exact opposite reaction I had to Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones, I think, kind of blew their load with the Purple Man. I don't know what the fuck they're going to do with season 2. Because, like, if they did with Jessica Jones, if they didn't crush it with that character and that performance and that actor, I can tell you right now, in Jessica Jones season 2, the villain is not going to have a performance like David Tennant's.
Yeah.
So they're already kind of, behind the gun.
Yeah, Jessica Jones, the way that one ended, if there was never a season 2, I'm satisfied with the ending to that one. Luke Cage, though, they covered some of his prison stuff, but we still don't know what the fuck he went to prison for. We get the feeling he's innocent since he said that every episode. But
yeah, they said that it was Diamondback had framed him because he was jealous basically his entire life of him. Which actually, I'll say, the performance of Diamondback was kind of cliche to me.
It was to me too.
Because he was kind of over the top crazy. At first, it's kind of cool, like with the "Can You Dig It" thing. Like his introduction is pretty cool.
His introduction's pretty metal.
But the more and more they show him, and it's just constantly like him throwing out a Bible quote, it got a little cliche over the top for me.
And the other cool thing they did was any scene that he had that big ass rifle and a Judas round, and the scene with Misty in the alleyway. Other than that, I could take or leave Diamondback, to be honest.
Which, if they hadn't, what's the word for it? Like, if they hadn't tried to get you so pumped up for Diamondback, if they hadn't made him into such a big deal, it wouldn't have been as much of an issue. But when they set you up for that, like, you were expecting to be kind of blown away, and what you got was the weakest villain of the season.
Yeah, I agree. That left a lot to be desired, as did Mariah. But
yeah, there's something. It's weird because you're supposed to not like her,
yes,
and you don't.
But not for the right reasons.
With that type of character, I almost feel like they went about it the wrong way. Because, like, with Cottonmouth, you're supposed to not like him because of his actions. But with that type of character, I think what makes that type of character more compelling is the fact that he has aspects about him that also make you like him.
That's the same with Kingpin and Daredevil.
Exactly. So you're torn as a viewer. With Black Mariah, you just don't like her. So it makes her to be less of an interesting villain to me if you have, because like we always say, some of the absolute best villains are the ones like Magneto or Mr. Freeze, where you totally get where they're coming from.
Yes.
Black Mariah is just a pain in the ass in this season.
And they even did that with Kingpin and Daredevil. Normally, Kingpin is just the fucking Kingpin.
Yeah.
And Daredevil, D'Onofrio's ambitions is basically the same as Daredevil's. But it's kind of like under the Red Hood almost, because Kingpin is trying to, make New York great again by controlling the crime and controlling the trafficking and all that, and pumping resources into the right places. And he wants to make Hell's Kitchen and New York better, but he's doing it through organized crime. Cottonmouth is a greedy son of a bitch, and you love to hate him. I just didn't care at all for Mariah. I would have taken their grandmother over Mariah, dude. Their grandmother, holy fuck.
That finger scene was rough. Dude. It made me cringe watching that shit.
Oh god, I know. It was bad.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I think Luke Cage season 2 is probably going to be even better, because I think if we have this many problems with their villain setup currently, and we still love the hell out of the show as a whole because of how well it was made, I think they'll learn from it, and then with season 2 it'll be even better.
Yeah, I was going to say that I have problems with their villains, but the rest of the show is so great, and their villains aren't bad. I mean, we've had worse villains come out of Marvel.
Absolutely. They have a really, really high bar they've set with the Netflix stuff.
Not only the Netflix stuff, but Luke Cage itself. The rest of the show is so strong that the issues with the villains stand out. But I would have preferred Cottonmouth, but really it didn't take away from the show for me too much. It was just more of, man, I just wish I could have had more Cottonmouth, which is a sentence I've never uttered before.
And more shades.
Shades.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they go with it.
When they took Cottonmouth out, it should have been Shades rising to power. That's what I would have done.
You get where they're coming from, because Black Mariah is, I'm assuming, a more prominent comic character, but at the same time, that's not an excuse. You still have to make them compelling for you and I, who had no background with it.
Props to the Shades actor also, because the black sunglasses look and everything is also cliche, but he pulls it off so well.
They even have a Ray Charles joke in the show about him.
What they call him? White Ray Charles? Is that what they call him?
Something like that. I also found it very, very odd. I was actually kind of thrown for a loop. I thought for sure Jessica Jones was going to be in this.
That's what we had heard when they started filming.
I even remember us talking about her being on set, right? Something like that?
Yeah, she'd been on set, and there was a rumor at the time that she was going to kind of be the same capacity that Luke Cage was in hers. It was mostly her, and he was in a handful of episodes, and some of the...
3 or 4?
Yeah, something like
maybe?
that. That's what we had heard she was going to do.
I thought absolute bare minimum we would get 1 or 2.
Yes.
So my only thing is, do you think they had her as maybe a cameo, and then they just decided, well, maybe people are going to be more pissed off if we just have a cameo and we'll just cut her scene entirely? Do you think maybe that could have been something that happened?
It could have been that, or, Jessica Jones seems like it was really well received. So, because any podcast I listen to or anything... Even Adam Savage of Mythbusters was just blown away by how good Jessica Jones was. So I don't know why they would cut her, unless it was just a cameo and they're like, that's probably not a good idea since Luke Cage was in Jessica Jones so much. I can't think of any other reason. Yeah,
it was just kind of odd to me, because it was one of those things where I was looking for her episode as I was watching it episode to episode. And then by the time, you get kind of sucked in, and I momentarily forgot until I finished it. I was like, holy shit, Jessica Jones wasn't ever in it.
And you want to talk about cameo, Rosario Dawson, I thought was going to be a 1-episode thing, dude.
And she was in, what, 3/4 the season?
Yeah.
Yeah,
half at least.
Yeah, they did a really, really great job with her.
And
that's how you write a strong female protagonist is Rosario Dawson
Yes, I
in this.
fucking love Claire.
That introduction where she just beats the fuck out of the
The
mobber,
first
dude.
thing that happens is she's a purse snatcher, grabs her purse, she runs him down, and they even have this front-on image where he's running towards the camera, she's running behind him, he looks over his shoulder, and you get this oh shit look on his face, and he runs harder, and she chases him down, gets her purse back, and beats the hell out of him with her own purse.
Oh, I will say too, now that you made me think about it, the use of Luke Cage's powers is very creative throughout most of it and very fun.
Yes.
There is more creativity in here than every form of Superman story I've ever seen in my entire life.
I know. Some of these Luke Cage writers need to move on to Superman at some point. Because
I could not agree more.
I mean, the problem that I have with Superman is he can be very boring. And there was nothing boring about Luke Cage throughout the entire season. The character himself, anyway.
And what's crazy, too, is, like, until, like, episode 8 or 9, there isn't even anything that can hurt him.
Yes.
So there technically are no stakes at that time for him yet, but it's still a really compelling show because he has to worry about everything around him, and they did a much better job making and getting that point across than all the Superman stuff does to me.
I also like the idea that he feels the bullets, or seems to. There's even that scene where he has his hand over the gun, and they fire it, and he kind of cries out in pain for a second, and then he bends the gun. And so he's got a mark on his hand where the bullet was and stuff, but...
They did some cool stuff with the chronology that I like too. Do you remember the scene where it was him having the gun pulled on him in the park, and they cut back and forth like 3 or 4 times back to that scene and then ahead? That was really, really well done. I liked how they kept cutting back, and then
stuff like that can go either really well or really bad, and they did a really good job with it.
It was a really, really great scene. Yeah, I think we pretty much kind of touched on everything. It was really, really, really good. We loved it. Our criticisms about it are because most of it is so good that, like you pointed out, the stuff that isn't as good sticks out. But
yeah, it kind of magnifies what's wrong with the show. Because, I mean, you've got anything from him going back to Savannah to the church to the fucking bullshit police work and police procedures. Because honestly, the moment they found out he was dirty, she would have been suspended. She would not, until she was investigated. She would not have even continued police work.
Oh, so, no, the biggest thing. So, really, really quickly, because we're running over time on this. When they are framing Luke Cage, and their evidence against Luke Cage is that he went up and killed a cop and yelled out, "I'm Luke Cage."
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Guys?
Not only that, Priscilla, was that the character's name? It's like the last episode, for no reason, she pulls a 180 and is on Luke Cage's side when she's been against him this entire season.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
But yeah, none of the Misty stuff should have happened once it was revealed that he was dirty, because she would have been suspended. Unless I figured that's what they would do, and then she would go basically rogue. That's what I would have done with the story. No, they have all this other bullshit detective work. I don't know.
Yep. Which it really goes to show we have a lot of problems, but the sum of it all is so good that it makes up for other areas.
Yes.
Namely, Mike Coulter carries the whole show.
Oh my god, he's
absolutely
so good. I cannot
crushes it.
Wait to see him in the Defenders, because I can't imagine how good that's going to be. When he was in Jessica Jones and Luke Cage worked really well together on screen. So can you imagine then putting him in with Daredevil and Iron Fist, which we haven't even seen yet, but the trailer is amazing enough that I already know the Defenders is just going to kick ass with all 4 of them.
Yeah.
to be able to see what they're going to do with him and Daredevil or him and Iron Fist, which I don't know anything about Iron Fist and Luke Cage, but you cannot Google either one of those without finding images of them side by side. So apparently they're together a lot.
There's always Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah, so apparently they're together a lot in the comics. So, Luke Cage Season 2, give it to me now. Punisher, give it to me now. And Defenders, I have to have them.
It's all gonna be money. It's all gonna be money.
I want it so bad, Jeff.
I'm hoping though they kind of figure out where they went wrong with Jessica Jones as well and kind of improve on that. But I that's the one I have the least amount of hope for. But it'll still be solid. Yeah, that's pretty much gonna be a wrap for our Luke Cage review. If you'd like to check us out more, please like and subscribe. That gets you all of our content. We just wrapped up before this our Week in News podcast. We also do a Game of Thrones show, and then we also do Let's Plays if you're curious about any of that content. We have social media links below for Facebook and Twitter if you are interested, and most importantly, if you know anyone else that might also like our content, we would greatly appreciate the share. I'm Jeff.
I'm Ron.
Sweet Christmas, motherfucker.